Udo Kier, German actor who bridged art house and Hollywood, dies at 81. Udo Kier, the German-born actor whose startling presence and obvious intensity made him one of cinema's most distinctive faces, has died at 81. His death, confirmed by his representatives and reported by major international news outlets including CNN, marks the end of a remarkable 5-decade career that spanned multiple continents, genres, and artistic movements. In keeping with Kier's extremely private personality, the cause of death was not revealed. For many, Kier was a cult figure, an actor whose bold choices and willingness to inhabit weird, disturbing, and frequently provocative characters made him a darling among auteur filmmakers. For others, he was a recognizable figure in popular Hollywood films, where his unique charm and mesmerizing stillness added substance to even the smallest roles. But for the film world at large, he remains a distinct force. A performer whose life work blurred borders, defied categorization, and left behind a legacy as varied as it is durable. In the wake of Udo Kier's demise, the world of cinema finds itself standing a little quieter, a little heavier, and acutely conscious that something priceless has been lost. Kier was never the kind of performer who fell cleanly into classifications. He belonged to no single genre, no single era, no particular artistic movement. Instead, he forged a world all his own, a realm characterized by boldness, eccentricity, mystery, and an uncompromising commitment to the discipline of performance. His passing at 81 draws to an end a life marked not by convention, but by creativity in its purest form. As tributes stream forth from filmmakers, fans, and partners, one theme echoes through them all. Udo Kier was unlike anybody else. He had the gift of presence, a quiet closeness in his gaze that could morph in an instant into something frightening, bizarre, or heartbreakingly vulnerable. This duality made him unforgettable. Even in roles lasting only minutes, even in films that slipped quietly via festivals or midnight screenings, Kier left something behind. For a time, a glance. Long after the credits had rolled, that feeling persisted. In actuality, the freedom he embodied rather than just the enormous number of films he produced is his greatest legacy. Kier allowed artists, filmmakers, and viewers to accept the ridiculous, the hideous, the exquisite, and the inexplicable. He genuinely uplifted marginalized stories by inviting the world into them. Whether he stood opposite Hollywood heavyweights or avant-garde geniuses, he carried the same commitment: to honor the character, to appreciate the art, and to surrender entirely to performance. Not because he was well-known, but rather because of his courage. His passing leaves a vacuum. Kier and other artists are rare. They are shaped by danger, born of uncertainty, and dedicated to a truth that transcends reality. His life serves as a reminder that film is about more than just amusement. It's about daring, emotion, experimentation, and exploration. Thus, we bid farewell to a man who lived solely through stories as the lights go down and the screen turns black. Even though his last scene is over, his work nonetheless quietly rebels against the norm. Udo Kier endures in every bizarre, audacious, and exquisite moment he shared with us. A survivor becomes a performer. Born Udo Kier on the 14th of October, 1944, in Cologne, Germany, Kier came into the world under terrible circumstances. A few days prior to his birth, an airstrike devastated the hospital where his mother had first sought safety. Kier frequently referred to himself as born in the ruins, a statement he made without feeling sorry for himself but acknowledging the significant influence it had on his early outlook. Growing up in post-war Germany, Kier was raised by a single mother and was exposed to tales of destruction, resiliency, and rebirth. These themes, darkness, survival, and reinvention, would later come to define his acting persona. He relocated to London as a young man to pursue his English studies, only to be unintentionally cast in a student film. The camera fell in love with him right away. He was impossible to overlook due to his sharp, distinctively expressive face, which was a combination of beauty and threat. One of the most unique and diversified acting careers of his generation ensued. Take Care, the emergence of an iconic art house early in the 1970s and early 1980s. Kier made significant strides in the art house and experimental film industries. His cult status was solidified by two films in particular: the 1973 film Flesh for Frankenstein, the 1974 film Blood for Dracula. These videos, which were directed by Paul Morrissey and influenced by Andy Warhol's factory movement, showed Kier at his most flamboyant, hideous, and captivating. In the world of underground cinema, his portrayal of Count Dracula, frail, sensual, and uncannily tragic, became legendary. Kier worked with directors in the 1,970 seconds and 1,980 seconds who were looking for actors with tremendous emotional range rather than traditional stars. He collaborated with Fassbinder, Rainer Werner, Herzog, Werner von Trier, Lars Borowczyk, Walerian Argento, Dario Van Sant. Thus he became an actor who valued artistry over predictability and danger over comfort as a result of these collaborations. Unlike any other Hollywood actor Kier found constant work in Hollywood, frequently in memorable supporting roles, even though he flourished in avant-garde film. He was a dependable scene stealer because of his ability to alternate between being evil and sympathetic. Included in his American filmography are: in Blade 1998, Dragonetti plays the elder vampire. Ace Ventura, Pet Investigator 1994. Johnny Mnemonic 1995. Armageddon 1998. Barbed Wire 1996. My Own Private Idaho 1991. End of Life Days 1999. Kier added a sense of weight and depth to even minor parts, transforming brief moments into memorable moments. Even when viewers forget the storyline, they could still recall him because of his unique on-screen persona. He made appearances on television in Breaking Bad, Horror Story in America, Water Falling, Twin Peaks Revival in 2017. He had an incredible range. Sometimes, in a single moment, he may be frightening, funny, depressing, or strange. The late career renaissance, a new form of stardom, and Swan Song, with Swan Song in 2021, Kier received the highest critical acclaim of his career and was given a leading role that was more about vulnerability than villainy, something Hollywood rarely afforded him. He portrayed retired hairstylist Pat Pitzenbarger, who sets out on one last, life-changing adventure. In sharp contrast to the caricatures he was sometimes cast in, the performance was delicate, eerie, and very human. It was praised by critics as the show of his life, a subtly beautiful reimagining. Evidence that Udo Kier was always more capable than what Hollywood could provide. At 76, Kier had accomplished what many actors strive for their entire lives, a character that fully embodied their humanity. Denminia, a treasured partner, despite his piercing looks and frequently intimidating responsibilities, coworkers frequently characterized Kier as funny, kind, warm, extremely competent, unfazed by creative danger, devoted to his associates and partners. Because he took on roles that others would be afraid of, directors trusted him. Because he was humorous and humble on every set, actors adored him. Lars von Trier once stated, "Udo Kier is film. He embodies every odd, lovely, and courageous aspect of cinema." An individual in a public setting, Kier never got married and avoided talking about love relationships in public. He spent several years living in Palm Springs, California, where he was well liked by the local artistic community. His friends characterized him as an animal lover, an enthusiastic gardener, an art collector, a strongly devoted friend, a man who appreciated solitude just as much as relationships. Even in his latter months, he maintained his solitude. Although his officials acknowledged his passing, they did not provide any information on the cause. Letting the work speak, not the personal lives, was in line with Kier's lifelong preference. International honors and industry responses, tributes from all across the world flooded in after word of his passing. The directors applauded his audacity. Actors praised his generosity. The first moment his iconic eyes appeared on film was recalled by fans. His enduring influence on cult, horror, and art house films was considered by film academics. Independent filmmakers lamented the passing of a performer who consistently accepted hazardous, unconventional films that others declined. Retrospectives were announced by European cinema archives. Film marathons were organized by cinemas in New York, Berlin, and Paris. Curated collections of his work were featured on streaming sites. His impact is finally getting the credit it has always deserved after being long undervalued by mainstream audiences. Is Udo Kier's legacy? Since Udo Kier was never straightforward, his legacy cannot be summed up in a straightforward manner. He was an icon from Germany who rose to fame as a performer. A legendary horror performer who was also a passionate dramatic actor. A Hollywood character actor with an art house poet's heart. A performer who doesn't mind being weird, attractive, unattractive, or weak. A creative individual who never ceased to reinvent himself. Instead of rejecting roles, he resisted typecasting by making every role, no matter how big or small, distinctively his own. In every way, he was a survivor, an innovator, a chameleon, an artist, a legend, and our conclusion, a boundless artist's last curtain. One of the most varied, audacious, and memorable filmographies in history is left by Udo Kier. He was a performer who gave filmmakers courage just by saying yes, a monarch of the strange, and a master of ambiguity. His passing closes a chapter in movie history that will be researched, honored, and re-examined for many years to come. Even though the reason of death has not been revealed, one thing is certain. Until the very end, Udo Kier lived a vigorous, creative, and outspoken life. Every frame he touched carries his spirit. His legacy survives in every artist he inspired, and he continues to be present in every glimmer of danger, beauty, and weirdness that movies continue to explore. The last bow has been made by Udo Kier. However, his creations will endure forever.